Thank you so much for being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips. First I show you how to create a scale, a 9-value scale, so you could actually use that to judge the actual tones. Then I'll go into how I do the outline and how I do basic structure and how I lay in the values, the chroma and the edges and the final details. So be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Here's the paper I'll be using. It's Strathmore Tone Grey, excellent paper, really good quality. So really going to have to sacrifice one of these sheets just to create this sort of scale of values. Now first of all you've got to decide the measurements. So I'm doing 18 centimeters here, so I'm making 9 boxes because it's 9-value system I'm using. So I divided it into 2, so each one is a square, if you like. So just joining those up and then numbering 1 to 9. Now the center is the mid-tone, and then there's 4 lights and then 4 darks. Starting off by doing the extremes. So the white is General's charcoal white I'm using, so I'm putting that in. That's what you normally use for highlights. And then for the darkest one it's Lyra, it's a Rembrandt pencil. And you have to sort of put 2 layers on that really to get the density there. Just marking up the pencils I'll be using. Starting off with the mid-tone then, so I'm using a B pencil, then HB, H, and then with the second value of the lights I'm using the white here but leaving a little bit of space so the paper colour come through, so it creates like a lighter tone. It's difficult to do a value scale of this method because there's so many variables. I do use the 2H to get the subtleties, to get a shimmer, but for this I'll just rub it out and just use the white and the paper. Onto the darks now, so I'm using 2B to start with, a couple of layers on that, then 4B, and then 6B. Then you'll have to adjust it accordingly, putting more layers on appropriate value to get the correct sort of variation. This is what you would do in your portrait anyway, just putting different layers on to get that right value on certain areas. Just going to run through this quite quickly. To put a center point in there because I'm doing this freehand, and then just working on imaginary angles, putting big shapes in to start with, and then placing the lines of the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows, and then from there just comparing one shape with another to get the overall size. But you've got this center point to start with, so everything's relative then from there then, and it's just a case of just keep moving things around and still it starts to shape up. You get an instinct really to know how it feels, and then I'll check it on a horizontal plane and also vertical plane with my pencil just to make sure everything's lined up both horizontally and vertically, and comparing one shape with another, and then once I'm happy with it I firm it up and then start putting more details in there then. Like I say, I'm just running through this quite quickly, but if you want a more in-depth look at how I do freehand, I have quite a few videos in my channel. Some are in real time as well, so I'll leave a couple of examples on screen for you now, and then I'll leave the link in the description below for you. Now I'm using a HB pencil for this, and then I'm using the Faber-Castell kneadable razor to sculpture the actual shape of the lines. Now the 9-value system is to simplify all those tones into sort of 9 values, and this is just an idea of what you could do, but there's so many variables which I'll explain later on in this video. Now for the details I'm using this eraser. It's called Mono Zero Tombow, really good to have in your kit. What I'm doing here is just ghosting the outline a little bit, just taking off a little bit of grey and then starting to add the white now. So varying the pressure, just putting it in very sort of lightly to start with, and then putting more pressure on where it's lighter. It's always best to do the extremes first, so do the highlights and then do the darkest areas, and then it gives you an idea then of the tones in between. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Now this is where this scales comes in handy, because you can just look at the scale and look at your reference image and just decide where the actual tones are in the portrait, and then just fill in accordingly. So number 5 there, which is the mid-tone, I've started off doing in sort of this place here. What I tend to do though is build it up very sort of slowly, so start off lighter than you need and then build it up and build up these sort of tones layer after layer. It's really surprising how subtle skin tone is as well, so doing that layer after layer, building it up, it builds up all these different sort of values, and it all adds to it, you know, adds to that subtlety at end of it. But once I'm happy with the placement of it, then I'll start going in with the darker areas. As you can see here, I'm working on several areas at once, really, backwards and forwards, just to get the overall balance. This helps to create a oneness to the actual energy of the portrait. Now it's the same approach to what I do when I do my pastels or oils. What I tend to do is open my heart, let the energy of the subject come into me rather than me coming out of myself with tunnel vision, focusing too much on details. So bring that reference image into you, open your heart and feel the energy coming through. So the more you send out this open heartness to the reference image, the more energy you'll feel, and just let it flow through you, out your hands, into your work. Now perseverance and being patient is the thing with this technique, because it does take a while for it to build up. When you first do it, it feels a little bit awkward and you don't get the tone straight away. You have to sort of work on it and keep building it up, and more you sort of go with it, the more it sort of comes alive. But just be patient and just let it flow and be spontaneous with it. Just like to take this opportunity to thank all my Patreons for their wonderful support every month. I can't thank you enough. Really appreciate it. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check out the link in the description below for more details. All the work I put on Patreon now is all in real-time audio, real-time video, so you get a real flavour and a feel to how I approach these portraits. Now on with the hair, just preparing that now. I just see the hair as shapes, movement and rhythm, so just get that in first. Put it in lightly to start with, so I'm not putting the really deep values in there, just sort of the midway sort of feel to it. Once I'm happy with the placement on it, then that's when I start putting more pressure and putting more layers on the pencils to create more of a darker tone. But again, it's not the correct value yet, that'll be all put in later on. Just getting the feel of it and working these values up slowly but surely. I find that's the best way, because then you get an overall balance right through the portrait then. If you enjoy this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this would help the channel to grow. To help to create the darkest value, I'm using a paper stump here, just rubbing it, and it seems to really sort of help with the density of the black. Just adding a little bit of white charcoal in certain areas just to get the glint of the hair. It's too white at the moment, but I will subtle that up using a sort of needle ball razor. Just lift off that charcoal a little bit. You'll see me doing this in a moment. There we go. And so what I'll do is just lift it off a little bit and then just subtle it up, reshaping, and then just glaze over then with like a 2B or something like that, and just to get the overall feel of the hair. Now here's a great tool to have in your kit. It's a mono zero eraser. Now I just cut the tip of it so it makes it a sharp edge, and I use that on the side there and just to sort of rub it out, but you can get nice lines, lighter lines, by just rubbing over the graphite, and it's quite a great tool to have in your kit really, for these fine details and that. As I mentioned earlier, it's just a case of building up the layers one after another, and it does come together eventually. Just got to have patience and have faith that it'll all work out in the end. Just refining the values now. Now I've put the hair in, you see, I can see that I need to be dark around the eyes, and once you start putting this darker colour in, it changes the actual values what you've put in before, so you have to keep going over them, like I say, layer after layer, and adjusting accordingly, and eventually it will come together and it'll all become balanced. Now it's a good idea to keep looking into the mirror as well, so you put the mirror in front of you, back to the picture, and then just look over your shoulder and have a look at the reference image and the portrait you're doing at the same time, and just going from one to the other and just comparing and just seeing it from a different angle makes all the difference. It sort of brings out the imperfections and the work that needs to be done on it. Now you'll find when you're doing your hair, it's very hard to get them sharp edges and to make sense of it all. It's sort of bit blurry, you know, so you have to, again, you just got to be patient, keep building it up, keep sharpening your pencils. That's the key with the hair. Keep sharpening that point, because it creates a better definition of the values then. Now if you're interested in colour work and you want to know how I create shadows in skin tone, I have got a free class for you, and it's in the description below, and it talks you through how to create natural shadows using complementary colours, and you can use this with any medium, watercolour, oils or pastels. You're welcome to it, and the link is in the description below if you're interested. Now you can just see what's illustrated here is that I'm using that mono zero eraser just to put them wisps of hair in there, little light hairs. That's what I love about these type of drawings, that you can be quite loose and you can let sort of areas just sort of lose themselves into the background, so you make it sort of really blurred and sort of interesting. It makes it quite arty looking with these sort of tonal drawings. Just to mention again that I'm not actually thinking about doing it, I'm just opening my heart, and these movements are just happening. I'm just observing them happening, and I'm just relaxed and just let it flow and be spontaneous. The more you can do that, the more the hair would feel natural and free flowing. The things to be aware of at this stage is getting the edges right and the value as well, and also the chroma. Now some areas are glowier than others. It's just like when you do colour work. So what I tend to do is put white down, then glaze over with like a 2H to create a glow with it. Now with the clothes, it's just a matter of, again, it's just getting that sort of structure in there first, lightly do it to start with, and then just build it up. Here's some real time for you now, just slowing it down so you can see how I'm doing the rib of the t-shirt, just around the neckline there. Just lines, just following the sort of movement of the pattern of things, and then just keep sort of keeping that same sort of space, but be aware it changes shape as you go along, and on the other side of the rib you don't see it at all, it's sort of blurred off. Now I wanted to keep this part really loose on the clothes, so not too much detail. I want the actual feelings to go around the energy of the face and that. So it's just loosely done, blended into the background, really nice and free flowing, and just sort of build it up again. It takes a while to get it to feel right. It always looks a bit strange when you first do it, but just be patient. It does come together eventually. Really got to be aware of the edges at this stage. You know, some edges are sharper, which will bring things forward. Some are sort of lost edges, soft edges. Now here in the lips, I'm putting that detail in now, just using a 2H, just going over very, very lightly over the white I've put in there, and it'll create like a shimmer which is on the lips there, and it'll give it more life. Make sure your pencil's really sharp, but just vary the pressure of the pencil, and that'll create different sort of subtleties. Also vary the pressure on that mono zero eraser as well, because that can lift up the actual pigment and create lighter values. So it's playing about now with using the actual eraser and the different pencils to create that right values and the feel of it. And I'm working on the whole of the portrait now, so it's really important at the end is to look at the whole thing, get a feel for it, open your heart, let that energy come into you and feel the energy. Now if it doesn't feel right in certain areas, it needs attention. So I'm not thinking, oh, that don't look right, that don't look right. I'm feeling it, and if it don't feel right, I'll work on it until it does. Now one of the things of using the white chalk, sometimes it's too light when you put it down, so you have to sort of just lift that off a little bit by using either the putty rubber here or that mono zero eraser, and then just fill in again. I'm using a very light pencil, something like a H there, and just basically just restructuring it again. But trying to get that overall feeling is the main thing at the finish. Thank you so much for watching the video right till the end, really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It would mean so much to me because this would help the channel to grow. If there's any questions at all, please leave a message in the comment section below this video and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But in the meantime, if you'd like to see more of my work, please check out this video here. Take care, bye.